Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. Hey, lovers of small businesses and good stories in general. Welcome to episode 115 of Small Business War Stories. And today I got to sit down with somebody who does something really, really cool. He takes these old radios from the early part of the 20th century, 1920s, 30s, sometimes 40s, and these old wood radios, and then he takes out the guts. Sometimes he restores them, but most of the time he takes out the guts and he makes them into guitar amplifiers. So it's called Square Amps, and Matt Richards is the founder and owner of Square Amps. And we talk a lot. I caught him at a really interesting time, because I caught him at a time right when he is diving into doing this full time. So he's been doing it for about 5 years as a side thing. And now he is going full on into making Square Amps his thing. And that's a theme that comes up a lot. It's like, how do you make that leap, which is, exciting, it's scary, and what are the things that go through your mind when you do that? And we talk about that. We talk a lot about his process, and he has some cool stories about people that are playing his amps, and what it's like to have this really unique product. And he has some really cool plans for the future, and we talk about that as well. This episode, like all other episodes of Small Business War Stories, can be found at smallbusinesswarstories.com. We would love to hear from you and tell us what you think about this. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode, number 115, with Matt Richards of Square Amps in Austin, Texas. And we are live here in beautiful Austin, Texas, and I have the pleasure and honor to sit down today with Matt Richards, who is the founder and the principal and the mastermind here at Square Amps. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. We know some folks in common who've been on the show in the past. So you used to work at Calton Cases, right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. What did you do there?
I started off in the interiors, and then after that, for a while, I started doing leather handles. That's what I was doing for probably about 6 or 8 months.
Very, very cool. So Square Amps, you have a very unique way of looking at the world, and a unique design ethics with your guitar amplifiers. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you do and how you got started doing this?
Sure. I got started from my grandfather. He was actually into CB radios, and when I was a kid, and they were always kind of lying around in the shop and things like that, and so I would pick them up, play with them, and just got infatuated with the radio. I was amazed by it, and always tinkering with stuff, taking stuff apart, and one thing led to another, and I just started messing with radios. Started taking them apart and kind of restoring them and stuff like that.
Okay. How long ago was that? When was the first time you actually took the back off a radio with a solder gun and started messing around?
I was probably 17 or 18.
Okay. All right. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
So how did when was the first time that you had this idea of, we're here in a room where we have probably about a dozen or so old radios, and most of them, in looking at them, because they're made out of wood and not Bakelite or plastic, they're probably pre-1950, I want to say?
Yes, most of them are from, the ones that I use, probably from the 30s, mid-30s to around the mid-50s.
Okay, so because that's when plastic became a thing, right?
Correct. Bakelite, yeah, pretty much. It became real prevalent in the 50s.
Okay.
Late 50s.
Okay, and you try to use wood in case
correct.
Enclosures.
Correct.
Okay. So what you do is then you create your own amplifier circuits, and you put them in these old radios. So when you play the guitar, it looks like you're playing it through this old radio, but really it's a brand new circuit.
Right. Correct.
So how did you have this idea?
Well, I've always loved junk, old things, flea markets and things, and I was walking around one day and I saw this old RCA radio, and it's like, man, this is, it's kind of a good size, I think I might be able to do something with this, it's like it's got a 6-inch speaker, I was like, let me see what I can do with this. So I took it home and ripped it all apart and kind of, hodgepodge things together, and I was like, all right, I might have something here.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. And what did you do with that first one? Did you sell it? Did you keep it? What did you do?
I still have it, actually.
You still have it?
I still have it. It's, it's kind of, I have a habit of keeping the first things that I do.
Yeah.
Like if I build a new circuit, like I'll keep the first one and just.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know.
So how did this, how long ago did you say that was the first one?
The first one I think was in 2013.
2013, so it's about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And did you immediately start making more of them, or was it initially like, oh, this is cool, but I'm gonna do something else? Like, what was that like?
I pretty much started making more.
Okay.
I made that one, and I let a few people play it, and they really liked it, and it just, I don't know, it worked. It felt right, so
Okay.
I just kind of started looking for a few more, and I picked up a few more radios and kind of tweaked what I had done and kind of try to take it a step further, try to make it a little better.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then when did you start selling them?
Probably 2014, the next year.
Okay.
I signed up to do the LA Amp show.
Okay.
And I think that was my first big show.
Okay.
I think I had probably 8 or 10 built at that time. So yeah, I jumped on it pretty quick.
Was anybody else doing anything like this?
I've seen a few different things, oddities here and there, but not to the level that I was doing it. No.
Okay.
Not really.
And is there anybody today, 5 years later, that's doing anything like it or not?
Not specifically with radios that I know of.
Okay.
There's like Analog Outfitters. Those guys do awesome stuff with like Hammond, enclosures and things like that. They're really cool. And other different enclosures, maybe suitcases and things. But for radios specifically, not that I'm aware of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about how do you, I guess the enclosure, they're all different, right? So there's
Correct.
no two are exactly alike.
Right.
But how do you think about when you see a radio? Do you pre-make inventory, or are they all made to order? How does that go?
Normally, when I find them, I buy them. Like
Okay.
if I find an enclosure, I usually buy it, and I'll ask whoever I got it from if they have any more. And 8 times out of 10, they're like, "Yeah, I got a whole warehouse full," or I've got more at my house.
Yeah.
So I try to just when I find them, I try to get them and stock up on inventory.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just kind of build one at a time, and then just put them up on the website as I finish.
Okay. Got it. How long? So is this the main thing you do now?
Yes.
Okay. How long has it been? So when did you work at Calton, and what was your a big theme in the podcast is how people go from working and working on things as a side project and getting excited about it to making the leap to full time. What was that journey like for you?
It's interesting because it actually just happened.
Okay, that's
like literally
perfect.
like a week ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, just having a lot of interest and a lot of emails, just generally a lot of interest in finding myself, staying up till 4:00 in the morning, filling orders and just building stuff to keep up, and then having to go to work the next day.
Yeah.
At 9 a.m. That sucked.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
Not cool. So it just kind of felt like the right thing to do.
Okay.
About the right time.
Okay. And so tell me more about, that's kind of feel daunting, right? To some extent. And
Right.
That's a natural feeling. Tell me more about that sort of process. And I think all of us have this thing. And we were talking before we started rolling about Nick Betcher, who's here at Austin Vintage Guitars, and he's got his band. And we just had an episode a few weeks ago talking about how we tend to mentally get in our own ways, and we're our own worst enemies in many ways.
Right.
So what's your mental process with, okay, I've been doing this for 5 years, people like this, to have my stuff out there, like, is it gonna be good enough? Am I gonna succeed? Like, what is that like for you right now? And this is a very real moment for you right now because it's happening right now, right?
It's interesting. It's just it's kind of hard to describe, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just it's either gonna work or it's not.
Yeah.
It's like I've got a lot of stuff out there with a lot of really good people, good players.
Yeah.
and they all love it, and I've just had a lot of really good interest and genuine love.
So you have this mix of like excitement and fear, right? And going out there.
Yeah, kind of. I think more excitement than fear. I think I'm there's always a little bit of fear, but I feel like I'm kind of past that a little bit.
But you went through it too.
I went through it. Yeah, right? Definitely went through it. That especially in the beginning. Because for every 10 people that like your stuff, there's one guy that's not gonna like it, and it's gonna just. You can remember those people. It's weird how that works.
That's really hard for everybody, I think, with like our own psychology, right?
Right.
What do you find? Do you have any tips or any things that have been effective for you in getting past those things?
Man, just got to do it.
Yeah.
Just believe in yourself. Just do it. It's everybody's different, especially when it comes to music and tone. Everybody hears things differently, and it's what one person likes, the other person may not like, and it's just be you.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I like that. So I played one of your amps before we started rolling here on my guitar. It's got a really unique tone, and also like obviously the visual I think of it is very unique and amazing. I think it's going to be a great success, even more than it already has been. So you were talking about before about some of the folks that are that have been ordering. Can you talk about some of the people that have been getting your amps and how they've been using them?
Sure. Let's see. Dave Cobb has a couple.
Okay.
He uses that in the studio. Chris Stapleton has one. He uses that one. I think he said he uses it a lot when he's at home.
Okay.
It's kind of like his home amp. He said when he wants to plug in, it's what he rolls with. So,
nice.
Sarah Shook uses one on tour. Sarah Shook and the Disarmers.
Okay.
Sarah Shook and the Disarmers. There we go.
Okay.
It's a mouthful. She uses one on tour. Let's see.
You're talking about Grof Morlick's getting one recently?
Yes, I just finished his up last night at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be.
That one's beautiful. It's a large enclosure.
Very big. Yeah. There's that one. Neil Fallon from Clutch has a couple.
Okay.
Let's see. Tyler Bryant. The Shakedown.
Okay.
Let's see who else. There's a pretty big list. I have all of them on the website if anybody's curious.
Okay. How do you find your customers? Has it been mostly word of mouth? Do you do any advertising? You mentioned going to shows. I mean, for people looking to get their product out there and saying like, shit, how do I find my audience? How did you do it?
Oh man, that's been a struggle. To be honest with you, that's one of my biggest struggles. I've tried a few different things.
Okay.
A lot of times I just kind of put it out there and then, try to advertise Instagram or Facebook,
So you do advertise. Do you do paid advertising or are you talking about putting it on your page?
I do a few paid advertisements. I'm still kind of working with that to try to get the audience right and kind of how all that works.
Okay.
It's kind of I'm a one-man show, so it's a lot of hats to wear.
Yeah.
Especially on that side of things. Like I've got the building side down pat. But
yeah, we've had some really good episodes actually. One about a month ago with a guy who's an expert in Facebook advertising, and one with another guy, Mercer, who's a measuring. I'm gonna butcher his website, measuremarketing.io, I think it is. Yeah. And it's they talk about how to set up your Google Analytics and all that. So that's something that you might want to.
For sure, yeah, I definitely need some. Need to read some books on that for
sure. Yeah. So have you found? So you do a lot of these like in-person shows. So you said you mentioned in the AMP show, and then I saw that you also did an event for South by Southwest recently, where you hosted people to check out your amps. Or is that more informal?
That was more of an informal kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I try to do the amp shows. I've done quite a few guitar shows. And last year I did Summer NAMM, and I'm going to be doing Summer NAMM again this year.
Okay.
That was awesome. I think that
is that the big one in is that the small one in Nashville?
The smaller one in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I love Nashville and
NAMM for our audience is the National Association of Music Manufacturing.
Yes, music manufacturing, music merchants, something
like that. Okay, it's basically like every guitar and amp maker.
Yeah, if you build instruments, you go to NAMM.
Yeah. And you wear earplugs because it basically sounds like 10 Guitar Centers stacked on top of each other.
Dude, the first time I walked into that place, I had no idea. I mean, I knew it was going to be crazy, but, 10 a.m. and everybody starts firing up, and it's just like, whoa.
It's pretty overwhelming.
It is very overwhelming.
I was wearing earplugs. I went one year, and I don't think I want to go back. And because I was just a tourist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it felt like it was just too much. But
yeah, it's definitely crazy, but it's worth it.
So you go there, and do you pay for a booth there?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. And that, your goal with that is to get, because most of the people there are trade people, they're not customers, right? I guess there's some artists walking around.
There's a lot of artists walking around.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I see it, I've done a bunch of different kinds of shows, and to me, that one was the best because everybody that walks through that door, I feel could be my customer.
Right.
Because they're in some way, shape, or form involved with music, either an artist or they run a studio, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I view it. It's like my entire audience is walking through the door, and there's nowhere else you could get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you thought about the question of selling? So currently you sell mostly direct, right?
Correct.
Have you thought about the question of like how would it be to work with retailers?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and I've reached out to a few people, and it's hard because not every one of my products is the same. I get a lot of call it flack, I guess, from
Pushback, maybe.
Pushback, and some dealers seem to like that. That it's unique and it's one-off kind of thing, but a lot of people just don't. It's just not a thing because it's not they're not all the same. They don't know how to sell it. They don't know how to market it.
But in a world where like more and more people are interested in like things that are handmade and like either like boutique guitars and things like that. Like if you're I guess some guitar builders have like a mold that they use every time, but a lot of people do have one-off models, and wouldn't that be analogous to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they still they see it differently. Huh?
Yeah, it just it depends on the dealers. Maybe I haven't found the right ones.
Okay.
So I just that's kind of something I've looked into, and I want to get into that more.
Yeah.
But it's working, just really well how I've got it going. So
do you sell in places like Reverb or not?
I do sell some things on Reverb. I've had a few incidents with Reverb.
Okay.
So yeah, I sell some things on Reverb, but not everything.
Okay. So you do a lot of stuff directly. And how do you... So these are fragile between the, 60 to 70-year-old radio and the fact that it has glass tubes in it and electronics. These are fragile things. How do you ship them to customers?
They're not... I mean, they're kind of fragile, I guess, but they're not super fragile. They're more rugged than you might think. But normally I ship through FedEx, and I use their pack and ship service. Okay. It's great. I know the guys down there at the FedEx down the street, and they know I've instructed them how I'd like these packed, and they do a great job.
Okay.
Never had any issues.
So that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about your vision about what's next. So you're now, as of very recently, decided to do this as your main source of income, your main occupation. What's your plan going forward? Are you going to hire more people? Are you going to continue to make them all yourself? As you mentioned, there's also the entire, being a maker is one thing. Then there's also, you have to learn how to market your own product, right? So how do you kind of think about this? And then I'm sure you don't have all the answers because I don't think anybody does, but
definitely plan on being a one-man show.
Okay.
I like working like that. I mean, if it came down to it, if I had to hire somebody part-time to do a couple of things, that would be okay. But I really like to be just a one-man show.
Yeah.
For the building side of it. Now the business side of it, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Definitely want to dive more into marketing and things like that. Learn about it.
Yeah.
And then probably bring on somebody or maybe a firm.
Yeah,
some
we've
sort.
had actually a lot of episodes are coming to mind here. But I interviewed a guy that wrote a book called Company of One, where he basically talks about that and how living the life that you want to live and having the things the way that you want them is not growth is not always what you want, and you have to decide who you want to be. And then there was a guy, Austin from Black Dog Traders. He takes, the old FJs, the Toyotas from the 60s and 70s.
Those are awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and he started by actually doing something similar to this, but with cars, where he would take the old, shells of these cars and put new motors in them. Now he's actually fabricating the entire thing.
That's awesome.
But he actually spent a lot of time, and we talk about this in his episode, he went and did exactly that leap, right? From being a builder to somebody who really studied Google Analytics, Google AdWords, and learned how to harness that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a pretty common thing for people to struggle with.
Sure.
What are some of the things that can you think of a time when things really went wrong in your business? Like, what did you do about it?
Really wrong. Let me see. There's a lot of meanings in this business, and
Sure.
it can go from either people getting mad or things catching on fire.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about both.
Never really had anybody get mad. I don't know. I mean, some of the first when I really started doing this when I was younger, I caught a few things on fire.
Yeah.
As any good technician does.
Yeah.
But
And it's dangerous to work on amps because the capacitors hold a lot of charge, right?
as long as you're not stupid about it, it's not too bad.
Okay.
You just be aware.
Yeah.
It's not
Because
crazy.
an amp is not it's not like a radio. Like if you open the back of a radio, you're probably not going to get shocked.
Actually, kind of reversed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go. That tells you
see-
how much I know about this.
Oh man, if you see some of these old radios and you take them apart, it's because a lot of those use old school point-to-point wiring, and at this point in time, a lot of that old rubber wiring they used to use is falling apart, and it's just and
Yeah.
sometimes I've seen some crazy hack job stuff in there that people would try to repair themselves,
Okay.
and it was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, in the capacitors hold the charge for that long? I guess it has been plugged in.
Yeah, I mean, pack capacitor can hold a charge for years.
Yeah.
You always want to discharge those before you start.
Right. That's a big thing. Like you have to use a tool to discharge the
Use a
capacitor.
screwdriver.
Yeah.
But
you have to know where to look. and
yeah,
what
you got to know,
do.
what to do, and it's just the biggest thing about tube amps. It's just you be safe, be aware,
Yeah.
and just don't go prodding around with your fingers, poking stuff. Use chopsticks.
Oh, interesting. And you have
Chopsticks.
to what's the other rule? The one hand.
One
rule?
hand, yeah, put one hand behind your back.
Is that what you do? You work with?
That's usually what I do. It depends on what I'm doing, But if I'm trying to troubleshoot something or restoring something, I'll poke around with a chopstick and kind of.
But you got in shock before.
A few times, not big bad shocks.
Okay.
But yeah.
Because I had a soap maker on the show, and he's saying that if you make soap, you're gonna get chemical burns from the lye, and it's
Right.
just a matter. It's just like part of the trade.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's funny. Cool. So what as you think about what are your plans to do more outreach to get beyond Instagram? Like for the next year? How are you thinking about other ways to spread the word about Square Amps?
Like I said, NAMM is going to be a big one.
Right, you said
Trade
that.
show for sure. Really just kind of getting out there more in the community, just kind of going to more shows and being more sociable.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big thing I need to work on. A lot of times I'm just sitting there in my workshop till the wee hours of the morning, and I'm not much of a...
Are you an introvert by nature?
Yeah, very much.
Right. So this that's got to be interesting because obviously you like to spend time with your tinkering on your
Right.
craft.
Yep.
And I'm a recovering extrovert. So but now like my therapy is to go into my shop and tinker with guitars. Right.
Right.
So it's interesting. So how do you think about because it is an area of growth for you to be more extroverted and make sure, and your preference is to be on your own. So how do you think about that challenge?
It's difficult. I really have to make myself do it. There's some days I really, get excited and want to go to the shows and meet people and artists and stuff. And there's other days I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
not today. I take it a day at a time, and really just try to make myself go. And usually when I do, it turns out okay. It's like I'm not going to die, or I'm not going to,
Yeah.
freak out of a panic attack or anything.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I think, is what you said earlier. Just do it. Just get out there and do it.
Exactly.
And get it out of the way.
Yep.
Interesting. Have you thought about expanding your product line and doing more things? I mean, are there other things you could do?
I actually have something in the pipe.
Ooh, all right.
It's really
Exclusive.
interesting. I'm working with a guy that used to work at Calton Cases, and basically, long story short, I want to make a fiberglass guitar amp.
Oh, okay.
What I did is I took one of the old radio shells, a big one, probably, if you lay that long one right there, lay it down, excuse me, about that size, so I can put any range of speakers in it, from a 6 to a 12, and it's going to be able to have all kinds of cool finishes, like glitter and different colors and things like that.
Wow.
So it's going to be it's an interesting project.
And that addresses the issue of making more than one of the same.
Exactly. That's where I'm going with that.
Got it.
That's kind of because I've tried to make different enclosures, and it's these old radios are really ornate and gorgeous, but they have these awesome curves that are sort of hard to get with wood. It just takes a lot of skill and a lot of weird equipment that I don't have.
If you were to make things,
if I were to make things,
right.
it takes forever to build and stuff like that. So, got to talking to my friend, and I was like, "Man, do you think we can make a mold out of this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I could do that." So I gave him a radio enclosure, so it's going to have the curves and everything like the old radios. But
so it's going to have the visual design ethic, but with a different material.
Exactly, and it's going to be like a flat front, so I'm going to be able to drill whatever speaker size I want. And then for the other side where the dial would normally go, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that, but maybe be able to do something with CNC. If somebody wants to put some artwork on it or something like that, or make their own kind of design, something like that. I'm still working on that part, but
wow, that is really cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty interesting. That's in the pipe. That's hopefully we should have one or two for Summer NAMM.
That's amazing. So if you start doing that, that is more of an involved production process, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So tell me, how do you think about planning and building for that? So
I'm super stoked. I've been planning it for a little while now.
Okay. Are you going to get a bigger shop space? How does that?
No.
Same shop. Okay.
A little 200 square foot shop attached to my garage. And that's kind of where I do everything. It's just I like small space.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest things with Square Amps is to do the most you can with the least amount possible.
Yeah, that's how Matt, we were talking before we started rolling about Matt Ike from Mule Resonators. He started in his garage too.
Yep.
And now he's got a portion of a floor of a building in Saginaw. But
right.
I guess the rent in Saginaw is also a little lower than Austin. So.
Yeah, probably so.
Have you thought about what it would mean to get a larger commercial space down the line or not? Carlton's got that space on the east side, right?
Right. I thought about it. If again, like you say, Austin rent is stupid expensive.
Yeah.
For something like that, but maybe one day if it came to it, it'd be cool. Especially if it had a little a retail space in the front of it.
Yeah.
So kind of have people come, in and out and try stuff, depending on where it was and things like that. But I'm definitely open to that if things came to that.
Got it. What's your take on the whole music industry as it comes to equipment, so guitars and amps and such? Because there's a few different things going on, right? So you have very large online distributors, but then guitars and amps are such a personal experience where touching it and like hearing it are such an important part of it, right? So, but then you have like the big unnamed, guitar chains. And then you have the smaller sort of boutique shops like Austin Vintage or South Austin Music here, or a lot of other shops in most major cities. So how do you think about where that's going?
Man, it's the internet's killing everything.
Yeah.
The internet's great. I love the
but
internet.
It's also enabling it, right?
It's enabling, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely great. I love the little mom and pop stores. I try to go in them whenever I can. A lot of times they have things that the big box stores don't have, and vice versa. I kind of go to all of them. Just it depends on what I'm looking for, and just excuse me if I'm wandering around and things like that. But I really wish the small stores would be able to survive.
Yeah.
And I hope they could find a way to survive.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of the heart
what do you
and soul.
think? What do you think is the key to
that? Being able to, I guess, change with the times.
Okay.
At least a little bit. Some of them seem to be able to do that, and some of them seem to be kind of stuck back in the 70s.
And in what ways do you think they should be looking to change?
I guess just maybe a little more online presence, or change some of the things they have in the store a little bit differently, be a little more, I don't know, I guess proactive with some things, maybe work with different builders and things like that, instead of just the big manufacturers, try to pull in some more unique stuff, try to set them apart from.
Right. So basically, you work with more like make it like a local. It's almost like a brewery, right? You go to a brewery because you have the local beer, the local thing.
Right. Exactly.
As opposed to going and just buying a bunch of Bud Light.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. And a bunch of the larger not all of them, but some of the larger manufacturers, certainly Gibson has been having a lot of trouble, right? With,
right.
And actually, because they're expanding their line, I think in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Huh. Interesting. What would you say is the number one lesson that you've learned in your time as a business? Because you've been doing this as a business for 5 years.
5 or 6 years, yeah.
Yeah, but now this is the first time that you're going full on. Right. What is the number one lesson or piece of advice you have for other people who are in your position considering going?
Pretty much just excuse me, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Just do your own thing. Just march to the beat of your own drum. Don't really, listen to what anybody else tries to tell you what to do or not to do. Just if it feels right to you, just do it and stick to it.
Yeah.
Don't change your course or don't try to mold around what people want you to be. Just do it.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
That's awesome. In along those lines, so to you, being yourself is a lot of the you have like between your radios and the fact that you have tube amps, right? So solid state amps do exist. They don't have the same sort of sound, according to myself or a lot of other people. And we're sitting here in a room where we have a solid dozen vintage older guitars. How do you think about all these things that matter to you and in a world where a lot of music is now being made with synthesizers or with MPCs and things like that?
Right. I don't know. Just try to, I don't know, say bring it back, but just kind of keep it simple and just kind of like, I don't know, I guess as of a reminder of where we come from, when it comes to, I guess, electrified music in a way.
Yeah.
Just kind of, just you plugged in with your instrument.
Yeah.
Simple.
It's got a more organic vibe. Like I feel like, well, I guess I don't know. I feel like people with guitars and analog instruments is like a way to build community. I don't think people bring their MPCs and sit in a circle and drink beers, right?
Right. Exactly.
So that's very cool. Where can people find you? People interested in learning more about you, about your brand. What are your websites, your social media handles and such?
I'm at squareamps.com.
Okay.
And you can find more information there. I have a web store there. Anything that I have finished, I put on the website. I have different categories and things. Everything's there. Instagram, I'm squareamps, one word. And Facebook as well, under squareamps. Okay.
And can people, so you do custom builds sometimes, so if somebody has something specific in mind, they can also contact you.
Correct. Yeah, I get a lot of emails per week, people sending me pictures of stuff, and I can build an amp pretty much as long as I can fit my guts into it. I'll build it.
So if somebody has an heirloom radio that's maybe been in their family for a long time that maybe doesn't work anymore or anything like that, they can send it to you and you can build a guitar amplifier.
Yep, I can build an amplifier out of it, or if they want it to be restored as a radio, I can do that because I've restored, hundreds of these as radios.
Really? So you can make it work again as a radio?
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. And you can still find all the parts that you need for that, or do?
Yeah, I usually for amp building. There's a couple of different sites that I use that I get parts from, and radio parts. Yeah, but I can find all the parts.
All right. Well, Matt, congratulations on taking the leap.
It's
a big deal for us to have you on the show exactly during the time of this transition.
Right.
And I look forward to having you on the show in the future, talking about all your success.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.